Can I ask about the Khadija Center? Can I ask how it started? And
So,
yeah.
the Khadija Center for Muslim Women Studies Incorporated started in 2012.
Mm-hmm.
It was founded by Muslim women scholars who graduated mostly from foreign universities abroad. So some of us went to United Kingdom, the
Oh,
United
okay.
States, so with a master's degree, and also with the PhD, ongoing PhD courses. We decided to put that up because there is a lack of women resource center in the Metro Manila area. So we wanted to have a policy and research center where women can articulate their
Oh,
issues
okay.
and challenges.
Okay. Um, like there's a lack since there's a lack of research. I mean, like there's a lack of resources, and or like research centers for the Muslim women here. Would you say that just for here, or there are more centers in places like Mindanao?
In Mindanao, there are more centers,
Okay.
definitely, because that's where the majority of the Muslims live. In Metro Manila, it's just around 10%. So we are minority. So that's why there is a need to put up a institution that can articulate and advance women's issues, especially in Congress and
Mm,
in the executive department.
okay. So, what exactly do you do aside from conferences and yeah, aside from conferences or getting together?
We do jail visitation when women in jail or women in conflict with the law. So we visit several detention centers to give them orientations on their rights, and we do institutional visits of universities, and we do paper research works. In fact, we have already two research paper. One was for the community, and the second one was for women in jail. So we pretty much partner also with the government institutions like the National Council for Women and the Congress of the Philippines, the
Okay.
House of Representatives, and other NGOs.
That's good. How is it? It's okay. Okay. Oh, SD card. Okay. Oh, and thank you for meeting us because it's Ramadan, right? So
Yeah, this
I'm
is actually
guessing.
the last day of
Yeah.
Ramadan. It's the 29th day of
Okay.
Ramadan. So tomorrow would probably be our Eid al-Fitr.
Holiday. Is
It
it
it falls
public
it
holiday?
it falls on Tuesday, but the holiday is probably on the 6th.
Mm.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, okay.
Less than 2 minutes.
Oh, okay.
It's not that on.
It's on na.
Oh,
That
sorry.
one's on.
It's
It's setting up another
The
camera.
other one is
Okay.
Oh, okay. The other one's not. Mm, about the, I mean, the issues that you try to get together to talk about and to raise awareness about, like, what issues are they?
Our issues are usually on justice, equality,
Mm,
and gender. So we pretty much dwell on how do Muslim women stand in Muslim society, like equality. Are we equal? Are we professing to be equal to men in the society? Issues on polygyny or polygamy
oh,
in
okay.
Islam. Polygyny means for men only because we're not allowed as women.
Mm,
Access to education, access to justice. What else? Economic, economic issues of women, discrimination also because we are identified as Muslim the moment you see us because we're wearing our
yeah.
hijab.
Yeah.
So we get easily the misconceptions and also prejudice and bias. So those are the issues that have, we carry and we discuss.
Oh, okay. Okay. Because yeah, because the categories that our thesis topic covers is aside from the stereotypes, prejudices, and discrimination, it also talks about the hijab, what it means for different
Mm-hmm.
Muslim women,
Yes.
and what non-Muslims who lack awareness about it, how like what image the hijab serves to them, like they have like wrong these different impressions of it.
Mm-hmm.
And then what else, like, and because in our review of related literature, while we were reviewing sources, literary sources, we also had to study, like, we also had to find out what was women's place in Islam, like, because
Mm-hmm.
there are a lot of, because like growing up, I was also taught, I was taught that by a lot of religious authorities, most of them being male, of course, that women couldn't do this, couldn't do that.
Mm.
So
There are a lot of
yes.
misconceptions that are held by non-Muslims about
Mm.
Islam and women. But actually, if you study Islam's history, this was revealed at the time when the women are at this lowest,
Yeah.
when infant daughters were killed just because of their gender, and men or male infant are prized because of their gender, that they will be bringing honor to the family. And the revelation to the prophet was to preserve and not to kill your daughter because they are precious and they are also equal to your sons,
Mm.
and to respect your mother because the paradise lies beneath her feet. Because there was once who asked the prophet, how do I, get into heaven? He said, oh, respect your mother. And he asked, what else? Respect your mother and obey her. What else? And just he said again that word. And then the fourth one was the father. So respect your father. So women in Islam is actually given a much preferential right, because of the lack of, equality before. So in the Quran, if you read it, because this misconception are coming from people who lack awareness of what the Quran contains for women. But there are lots and lots of verses on the virtues of how Muslim women are, you know, equal to men. They can exercise employment, they can go into politics, they can go into social life, without any restriction
Yeah.
whatsoever. So these misconceptions are coming from lack of, in-depth awareness of what really is Islam and how does Islam view women. If they go to in-depth studies, like for example, proper authorities, ulama who studied, then probably that misconception can somehow be lessened. The prejudice might go away, because prejudice always springs from a mind, and a mind of a prejudiced, you know, mind. It springs from the mind, right?
Mm.
That's the reason why it should start with knowledge. So in our society, especially in the Philippines, there was once a study that showed that 47% of the country viewed Muslims as, negative and negatively towards terrorism. 47% is quite huge of the population. So I think it's coming also from media, the
Mm.
negative portrayal of Muslim in the media because of the terrorist groups that are existing. So they are equating Islam with terrorism.
Yeah.
That's another. And probably, so number one would be lack of knowledge and information or awareness of what Islam really is, because it's coming from secondary sources. So if you don't go to the primary sources like universities, institutions, academe, you will be misled, right? Because it's a secondary source. And the second would be the media itself, which is a social agent of the society. The media also doesn't go into, much deeper awareness of what Islam is. So propagating all of this negative portrayal. And it's probably culture, that's third, because Islam is also viewed in the lens of culture. Where, for example, if you're in Africa, they allow uh, female genital mutilation, but that's cultural. That's not in the book. That's not in Quran.
Okay.
Do not harm women, so they are harming women. So, and also in Mindanao, for example, the age for marriage is 14 years old at the age of puberty. That's also cultural. Some of these misconceptions are coming from cultural traditions being interpreted by some of our members as part of the religion.
Oh, okay. So following that, do you think like the Muslim women here, like as a whole, especially here in Metro Manila, living as a minority, do they feel welcome here?
I've experienced living here since birth. So I've worn hijab for the past 20 years because I'm now 40. So 20 years, I think. I've in the university where I'm coming where I've studied. There's not that kind of discrimination, but outside the university, the moment that they see you wearing hijab, instantly they have this misconception that you are selling DVD. You are from a certain particular sector of our Muslim society, and you are oppressed. You are not equal to men, and the hijab is seen as a symbol of oppression. And then they try to rationalize that why are you wearing that? But I was thinking, why would we be judged about wearing whatever we want to wear when we want to wear that? You can opt not to wear anything, and I will respect you for that. But why would our covering be so, what do you call this, fearful to you, or
So different.
yeah, so different and alarming, when in fact nuns are covering their hair. Virgin Mary is covering her hair. Almost every major Catholic, you know, um, monasteries will are covering their hair, but they don't have that kind of discrimination. In fact, they are respected when they ride the MRT. They get a seat, okay. But us, when, like for example, a bombing somewhere in Mindanao happened, you immediately get the flag that Muslims are terrorists, and then you hear that, and then you just keep to yourself so that you will not be, fighting or serious. And so there's really a double standard in the society when it comes to us covering.
Oh, okay. So because of this, like because of that, and it's just an act of practicing your faith. So, has it caused a lot of Muslim women here any problems in being accepted, especially in workplaces?
Yes, I've experienced one of my colleagues, one of my best friend. She was applying for a major network. I think I cannot mention the network, and she was turned down. Notwithstanding that she has the perfect English, she has the qualifications, credentials, you know, because of her hijab. And they ask her, if you remove that, then we'll probably, get you. But if you're still wearing that, we're not yet ready for that. Wearing hijab in the television.
Okay.
Here in Philippines.
Yes, in this country.
Okay, because the other two interviewees that we uh, that we asked, they said that in the public space, because in the West there are a lot of more extreme cases of Islamophobia, where they act violently, to there's violent racist behavior towards women with the hijab or men with beards, but here they said that it's not prominent. They didn't experience anything, but when it comes to the workplace, like it's really rare for Muslims here, especially in Manila, to get accepted?
Yes,
So,
there's a study that if you change your name from a Muslim name to a non-Muslim name, you will probably get higher chance of being accepted, especially in the security sector, security guards, and also yes, they change their
okay.
names. So they get aliases so that they will, because as between two qualified applicants, one is a Muslim and one is not. Uh, Chances are the non-Muslim will be more getting the chances of getting employment rather than the Muslim sounding name, because they have this misconception that if it's a Muslim, it's a war freak. They will wreak havoc in the organization or the business. They cannot be trusted. So these are some of the studies that have been in the literature and has been proven also to exist as prejudice.
Okay.
I've heard of interviewees before is they've heard cases of Muslims having to print a fake birth certificate with their fake religion.
Yeah, that's also true.
But is it against like the religion?
I think it's directed against not Islam as a misunderstood religion, so that it's teaching violence instead of peace. That it's an extremist religion where people are out to shed havoc in the society, when in fact the struggle in Mindanao is actually a very justifiable one, considering that for 350 years it's lacked development and it's deprived of deprivation, injustice exists in that area. So when a state or when a society does not do any good to the minority, what can the minority do but to fight back? So when the minority fights back, that's terrorism.
And would you say that a lot of these terrorist motivations, they're not religious, they're more political than anything?
I think the terrorism that I'm seeing right now is more of a political character, because they're using religion as a way of recruiting people, and in fact they don't even know how to properly pray and the fundamentals of Islam. Because if they really know the fundamentals of Islam, they would be they would really be the first one to say, let's not do this because it's not allowed in Islam. You do not harm people, you do not steal, you do not do these things, because the Islam and the Quran is the conglomeration, consolidation of all the books, the Torah and the Bible. So all of those teachings are preserved in the Quran, and all great religion teaches honesty, hard work, right? Doesn't teach violence, going to the extreme. It's always about moderation.
Okay. So the common stereotypes, aside from war freak, violent, what about Muslim women in particular? Would the most common stereotypes
The
people
most
have
common
here?
stereotype would be that not equal to men. When it comes to the status of women in Islam, they have this misconception that we are not equal to men, when in fact we can carry our own maiden name when we get married.
Okay.
We will not change our name,
Oh, okay.
so
Even
your
I was never
identity is
taught
preserved. So that very very principle is actually very telling about our religion, that you preserve who you are and not be subsumed by your husband's identity just because you are married to him. So that's equality, I think. And you can also have jobs, and in fact you're in the Quran, your salary would be yours.
Yeah,
Your husband should not get your salary. It should be yours.
yeah. What women rightfully earn
Earn
is
is theirs, right? And when it regards to polygamy or polygyny, it's being abused, because the existence of the circumstances does not hold true anymore in the society. The polygyny was exercised during the time of Great War, where there are lots of widows and orphans, and that's the time when the prophet was allowed to marry one or two or three. up to 4. But those circumstances do not exist anymore in society. In fact, in Bangladesh, polygamy is already outlawed. And Bangladesh is 90% Muslim.
Okay.
And in some country like Algeria, Morocco,
Oh, they don't allow polygamy
no.
anymore.
Because they say, what is the circumstance? Are we in a state of war?
It's not applicable in this society.
In the
now.
society, because you have to take into context when the revelation was revealed that you're allowed to marry. So it is said that it's best to marry one because you cannot do justice to 4 people. So it is being abused by some, I don't know, clerics or men themselves because they benefit from that, probably.
Okay. Regarding the hijab, your personal perspective, like why do you wear it? Is it part
The
of
hijab
who
is
you are?
the hijab is actually it's a product of one's spiritual journey. You mature into it. You do not you do not get forced to wearing it because eventually you'll take it off, and then when you see people that you like, you're afraid. Like I see some women who are wearing the hijab one day and then the next day they're taking it off, or when they are in a public place where they don't feel comfortable because they will be singled out, they take it off. So it's actually a more of your faith and conviction. It's your journey that this is part of me and I want to do it because I believe that I'd be better protected. I believe that it would be part of my modesty. So it's more belief. So it's really faith and spiritual. It's not really something that is imposed on people to wear and to prove that you're more Muslim, more righteous. No, it's not.
Okay.
So it should be your
Individual.
choice, and as you grow into your faith, so is your also your externals, right? Inner and then outer. Maybe you should grow inner first, and then you express it in the way you talk, in the way you dress, in the way you conduct yourself with others. So that's how I see hijab. It's not something that should be imposed or a level or as a measure of righteousness of women.
Okay. Because the last 3 interviewees that we had, they were all like
It really is
bald,
required.
bald.
It's not.
Okay.
In in the last sermon of the prophet in the mount of Hira, in the Arafat, he said, "Do not Islam should not be imposed on anyone. There is no compulsion in religion.
Yeah.
Let your wife or husband marry, go to church and go to church if they want to. So it means that you should not even force your spouse to convert. And then in the Quran, they said you can marry from the people of the book, meaning believers, because the Islam is an establishment of anti polytheism. So if you marry people who believes there is God, one God, and not idolaters, then it's allowed.
Okay.
So how much more if you're hijab? Hijab is something that really should be a personal choice of people.
Okay. Cause cause I'm sure you've heard like a lot of a lot of the elderly people saying, I mean, talking about punishments for women like in the afterlife if you take off your
The hijab.
Yeah. So I know I'm just wondering like would you why or what would you have to say about that, if any?
There is no verse in the Quran that says that if you take off your hijab, you'll go to hell. There is none.
Okay, because that's always the common
There's a problem with
phrase.
they read the Quran in the Arabic, but they don't understand it because they do not read the translation.
Oh, so where do you think that comes from? Like, because even growing up in school, some of the teachers, religious teachers, would try to scare us into wearing the putting on the hijab because we would go to hell. And I don't know where it comes from now.
No, it's not in the Quran. It's probably meant to force people to wear the hijab, when in fact, what was there in the Quran is to cover yourself with the veil so that you will be people of believing women should be modest. So meaning modesty is preserved. So modesty in that sense would probably be covering yourself, not really exposing yourself, right? So that's what it is. And it's I think it's a spiritual also, because hijab is not just physical.
Yeah.
It's a spiritual covering, meaning you, as much as possible, you do away with temptation that might cause you to sin.
Mm.
So it has two connotations. So what if you're covering and but your character is not upright?
Yeah.
It doesn't really matter, does it?
Mm. That's true. Next question. If Have you ever witnessed any fellow Muslim women being mistreated, misjudged, or viewed negatively because of her religion or practices? And how do you feel about it?
Muslim women being misjudged because of her religious
Yeah,
practices.
like anyone
If you
you
have
know.
witnessed.
Mm. As I've said, my friend was not
Yeah.
accepted to the employment. She was deprived of that opportunity to be in the public space and being seen by millions of viewers in the television, when in fact it was like her lifelong dream to be a newscaster
Oh,
in hijab. So that's one.
oh,
Have
okay.
you witnessed anyone in public space like being banned from stores or buses or
Or being fought with, treated rudely.
In this country, yeah, but when you go to the cinema, one time I experienced this. I was asked to give my camera, my cell phone or camera. Do you have a camera? I was asked if I have camera or cell phone.
Okay.
Because I was wearing my hijab, so I was identified as a Muslim in Green Hills. And then I asked them, did you ask that to the other one who came ahead of me? Because if you did that, then I would comply. But since you didn't, it's probably this is a discrimination, it's an act of discrimination against me. Because yeah, you see,
Fair.
yeah, you thought that I would be filming the movie because I'm a Muslim, and I would be selling that in the so you're seeing me as, you know, a sector. You reduced me into a common criminal. So I was really, yeah.
What happened after that? Did did they take away? Did they still take
No,
away?
they didn't, because they were afraid.
Yes, sir.
Because I answered back, did you do that to the other one? So she said, you cannot answer me. So she said, you don't have any right to look into my bag.
Okay. So as I think you already answered this when I asked about the Khadija Center, but the last question is, what do you do to challenge these stereotypes?
What we do is that we, as this one part, we actually want you to interview us.
Oh, okay.
So that you can have another more balanced opinion from people who really experienced wearing hijab and being discriminated. And we also do our research. We do focus group discussions. What else? We also have conferences so that there will be more public space and more people will be engaged. We have our website in Tumblr. We are in Facebook. So we're practically in the social network.
Oh, okay. So, like, would you say that in challenging, like, education is key? Like,
That's
raising awareness?
even in Islam, the number one virtue that has been extolled by God Himself is for us to learn, to seek knowledge. The very first verse that was revealed by God to the prophet is read. Read, he said, read in the name of God. But the prophet was not learned. He's illiterate. He cannot read. So he was so afraid. How can I read? I do not know. And then the prophet was commanded again by God through the angel Jibril to read. He said, read. But he said, I cannot read. And then the third time, he said, read. And then so the revelation came to him from God himself through the angel, and was transmitted to the prophet through revelation, meaning God gave him the verses to read. And he does not know how to read, so he probably memorized it, but the commandment was for us to learn and seek knowledge. And that's the number one virtue that was said in the Quran, that those who are learned have a higher degree in heaven, because if you are learned, then you're enlightened, right? If you're enlightened, then probably you have lesser problem because you will teach the right, guidance to people. So that's number one, education.
Okay. So I guess that's it. Unless you have other personal questions you want to ask.
Everything's answered.
And probably if you're asking me if there has been discrimination, you look around you, there are so few women who are represented in every public space and every employment who are covered. Most of us are not covered. They're afraid to cover because, like for example, doctors, because patients will not go to them as to consult them because they're Muslims. Yes, so that's one. In terms of acceptability, the ones who are covered are not seen as more competent because they see us as lesser, of lesser education, of lesser competence, of lesser knowledge. You have to attribute that because in Mindanao, the education quality is very low, right? Because of the conflict that has been going on in the area. How can you educate a child when there's bombing everywhere? So classes are suspended most of the time. So when they go here, what they expect? So children who are from Mindanao, when they grow up here, or not children, adults, they don't get jobs easily, right? So they are ghettoized. You know ghettos? We are discriminated when we apply for an apartment to rent, because I experienced that. That's another one. When I was applying for an apartment, then they saw me. At first, when I called them, there's an available slot. But when they saw me personally, they said it's already filled up right there and then in my face. And then I said, just because I'm a Muslim. So what happens? Muslims go to their own community and establish their own community. They go together, so it gets ghettoized. So I see some ghettos in the Metro Manila area where people who gets rejected go and build their own community. So you can see that everywhere in Quiapo, in Quezon City. So you get discriminated in dwelling, you get discriminated in employment. What else?
You witnessed someone being rejected from commuting, taking public transport.
Really?
Yeah, have you
Me?
witnessed?
In commuting, no, not yet. Not yet in public transport. Thankfully, because I'm commuting.
Or like heard stories? Or
I've just heard stories that while they were there inside then people are started talking about Muslims. So they get embarrassed when they are.
And like the thesis project, and after this research stuff, we have to make multimedia project to educate and to communicate this message to the public. Yeah, and then we're thinking one of our ideas is like a short film to like help get others' empathy. Yeah, so we're thinking of combining stories of the different interviewees we've heard, like mixing stories or some from sources.
So it's gonna be like a infomercial.
Yeah, kind of a short film that, yeah.
Are you Muslim?
Yes.
Azam.
Born Muslim.
Oh,
Yeah.
you're from also.
Brunei.
Oh,
Yeah.
but you're studying here.
Yeah.
Okay. So I was thinking, yeah, you were talking about, is there any in the Quran? I haven't seen any verses that when you don't wear, you're gonna go to. So that's why. No, I haven't witnessed yet the, public transportation.
Okay.
Not yet, so far. And I'm
You're
thankful for that.
Thinking of story ideas to help get others empathy.
But I think you could also do an infomercial about it, because some people are really, they don't have sensitivity, and they talk about us openly when there's bombing, and then it's because they're Muslims and they're terrorists, so you're immediately labeled terrorist. So, and also at school also, you get bullied also. I got bullied.
Really?
Yeah, when I was in high school, because I transferred here from Mindanao. And then my classmate was talking to me, and she said, Muslim, you worship pigs, and you worship like that. You are not, you're terrorist like that. And then I was just quiet. And then I said to her, if you really want to fight after class, we'll go out in the public square and we'll slug it out. Not here when with class is going. And also, just wait for the arrival of all my relatives because they're near. So you really will get it. And then she said, oh, I'm just kidding. And she didn't repeat it again. And I think some Muslim kids are getting bullied in Christian or non-Muslim schools also. Not by his classmates or by teachers, through ignorance. Have you got everything that you need?
Yeah.
That is different answers from the previous three.
Oh, different as they have, because because we are, as I said, a more of a think tank resource for women. So almost all of our members are really advocates for equality, justice, and human rights of Muslim women in this country. Some of us also went to and get invited to participate in international conferences like Turkey by Frida. Frida is a LGBT organization, and we participate. We do not discriminate. So it's all right with us.
Okay.
Yeah. So thank you for
Yeah.
your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Extension
Thank
of
you
our
so much.
advocacy.
Thank you, gift. I bought.
Oh, you still have,
Yeah.
although it's Ramadan. Happy
Yeah,
Eid
you can
al-Fitr.
save it for later.
For later.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you can see it for later.
Yeah. Thank you very much for the
So-
thought.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do you want a picture with me
Okay.
so that I can post it in Khadija?
Okay. Yes.
Selfie.
Selfie.